You're listening to the Academy Podcast, presenting an innovative curriculum for personal growth. Sit in on exclusive conversations with influential people as they share the secrets that made them the front runners in their industries. Now here are your hosts, Austin and Kagia.
Hi, I'm Kagia Scott, but you can call me G.
And I'm Austin. You can call me Austin, and we're really glad that you are here for the Academy. This is episode number 4. Kagia, we have a very special guest, man. Why don't you tell us who we got?
You most certainly do. I was browsing as I do through Facebook one day, and I came across a video.
Yeah.
And this video just it spoke to me because so much of the time, COVID virus had been up to that point something that happens to other people. And I came across a video where somebody that I know well said that they had COVID-19. And so I listened to the story, and it was so intriguing that right afterwards, we had a family meeting in my house about the possibility. So I thought that it was so important,
right,
that people kind of realize that this is not something just for other people. At first, it was just for China. Then it was just for Europe. Right. But now it's over here. It was just for California, just for New York. No, this thing can hit close to home. And to have somebody that I know well that had the experience, I just wanted to get a chance to interview her. And there are many things I did not say or ask her already, because I want us to talk about it on this podcast, just for the benefit of not just me, not just Austin, but for everybody that will have access to this podcast.
Yeah, so we're really glad today to have Tonya Jackson. Listen, LaTonya, I'm so glad that you're on the call. You are a mother. You are a hardworking African-American woman, somebody who chases after God's own heart. I know personally the prayer warrior that you are. We're going to get a little bit into your story, but first of all, just tell us how you're feeling today. You know, how are you? What's the latest in your world?
After this journey, I'm blessed and highly favored.
Yeah, that's good.
I am happy to be alive, and I know it's only by God's grace. So, as the song said, I've had some weary days, some hills to climb. I am not complaining.
Yeah.
Not
good.
one bit, not complaining.
That's good. That's good. So I mean, just kind of walk us through. Well, first and foremost, just walk us through what the last couple of days have been for you, just right now. Like, what's going on with you right now today? How have you? What's your day look like? How are you staying healthy? Talk to us.
Right now, I am taking each day at a time. Although I'm technically clear of the virus and able to go out, it takes a toll on your body. It's a fatigue like you can't explain. So I'm just taking each day as it comes. I'm working from home, so trying to ease back into what's normal in an abnormal world.
Right. And Kagia, I think it's kind of funny. She said, "What's normal?" Everybody's just online now. Everybody's on Zoom. Everybody's on phone conferences, and it is becoming the new normal for sure, man. So
definitely,
it can be a bit uncomfortable. But tell us kind of let's first start with your background. Tell us about yourself for the listeners who are listening at home, those who are watching. Just tell us about yourself. Tell us who you are, where you got your start. What's life been like for you?
Well, I am a single parent, divorced, in our church, and it has been a journey. That's a whole nother journey by itself. We can do a separate podcast on just divorced and recovery.
Right.
But God is good. In the midst, I have 2 college students. One is a freshman at Fayetteville State University, and he is playing in football and has aspirations of doing things in sports medicine and music. And my daughter, she is a senior at UNC Wilmington, where I graduated from. Yay!
Okay.
Seahawks. And she is a biology major with a double minor in neuroscience and chemistry.
Wow.
So she'll be graduating in December. Praise God.
So you are a proud mom. You're a proud mom.
Yes, I am. I am. I'm proud of them. can choke their neck sometimes, but that's most parents with their children, but I'm proud of.
So at this time, everybody's been sent home. So they're actually, instead of being away in college, they're home with you.
Yeah, my empty nest was short-lived.
Right, we were just saying that off the air. Yeah, your empty nest.
Oh, so my nest is full again, but I'm enjoying their company. And as I look back at it, just how God allowed this to happen, I had help. It could have happened when they were at school. And for me to have been quarantined as long as I was, it was by God's grace that they were here and able to give me a return on my investment for taking care of them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good. Well, I mean, can we kind of dive into that a little bit? You know, I'm a product
Sure.
of, you know, a single parent home by tragedy. My father passed away, so my mom had to raise both, you know, me and my brother. And so I have a special place in my heart. I know Kagia does too, for any parent, you know, male or female, that has to raise children by themselves, you know, and I can see the payoff now. But tell us about that a little bit. How has that journey kind of come back to you with them helping you now? What's that been like?
It was not what was planned. Did not plan to be divorced, but as life has it, it is what it is. And I had a decision to make really at that time. Do I crumble? And it seems strange, but the main thing that stressed me, because I was trying to make sure I was taking care of my kids, is the thing that probably kept me alive and going, was to be able to focus on them.
Yeah.
I've been raising them by myself now for the last 15 years. So they were 7 and 3. And now to see them in college, it was worth the sacrifice. As a matter of fact, all 3 of us are in college now, because I'm getting my my master's. Matter of fact, me and the baby boy should graduate at the same time.
Come on.
All right.
That should be interesting. But so now I after making sure I got them where they needed to be, I was able to, I work full time for UPS. I've been there for 33 years. And now I'm in school at the same time. So it's a lot that I've juggled, but I can say that it was only by God's grace, because when you go through a divorce, and I'll just, you know, keep it real with you.
Sure. Yeah.
You go from having a household and a budget to set off 2 incomes. So when you take away one income and you have one person with all of the responsibilities, less in income, and then in order for me to be with my children at night, I had to step down in my career and readjust and take a pay cut. So I saw the Lord by being faithful in tithes and offering.
Yeah.
I saw him do some math that did not add up when I went to add it up. So I've just seen God be gracious over the journey. And to be truthful, the journey does not feel good at all. Not the journey of single parenting, not the journey of being divorced in a church who predominantly recognize either couples or singles, but I'm like, there's another whole category over here. And although I'm single, most single divorced people ain't trying to hang with the single people that's looking for, you know, our priorities are just a little bit different. So there's an opportunity for ministry to those who have been through my shoes.
Absolutely.
I was able to, at one camp meeting, with the help of Pastor Preston, to do a workshop on divorced couples or divorced people.
Yeah.
And it was a 2-day workshop. We tried to throw it out there and just kind of test the waters. And I think I had like 40 people the first day and 30 some, both male and female. But what I realized, and I know this is not what we plan to talk about.
This is real talk. Yeah. We'll get to that.
What I realized is that the older people, because when I'm there at camp meeting, it's not the younger crowd, it's the more retired group or the conference workers.
Right.
But to see the older people still suffering from that hurt because there was not an avenue to express it. I'm like 70, 80 years old, still when they told their story, that was still some pain right there. And just to be able to talk about it and to tell you the truth, when I look back over my story, if I could change something, whenever you see somebody in your church or in your congregation and you see the happy family, then all of a sudden you see a little distance, and then all of a sudden the whole picture changed.
Right.
Nobody says anything. They're either don't know what to say, afraid to say, don't want to get in your business.
Right.
And I'm like, folks, I'm struggling over here, but ain't nobody saying a word. Y'all acting like, this stuff could just happen. I'm like, and then, and I laugh at women, because when you have functioned in a coupled atmosphere and your dynamics change, you still have couple friends. But then all of a sudden, they looking at you. I'm like, I don't want your man, and you don't even want your man.
Right. Come on.
But that whole thing changes.
Yeah,
so you go through
real.
that where you don't fit in, even although these are the same people that you've been with.
Right.
So you have to adjust to the dynamics, and then you have so many couples who aren't prepared for the shift. I lost the income due to divorce. Some lose it due to death. So how do you regroup financially from that?
Right.
How do you raise your children when if you don't go to work, they don't eat? It's a lot that I could talk about, but I know you could talk about COVID.
No, I think that's good. I think that gives background and real talk. And I'm about to ask you a question, because I think she kind of said, well, first, let me just say, we've seen God these last 15 years keep you. And I think that's important.
Yes.
You touched on a lot of stuff, I think, because a lot of people are in the scenario that you are in, but we don't talk about it as a church. And I mean, G, do you think that we're just weak on that as a church? Because, you made a good point about, we have family life, we got couples, singles, but we really have nothing for those. I mean, you think we're weak on that, G?
Absolutely. And really, I wanna really assay several people to make sure it's not personality based, but my thought would be, not as a minister I could talk to everybody, but as a fellow member, my thought would be that they don't want me in their business. And so the question is, are most people wanting someone to talk to, as opposed to, and so that's definitely, so I would start calling and asking people about this.
If I were to give advice to a minister with a divorced person, err on the side of asking and let them tell you no thank you. Versus
absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I'm with you.
I'm doing all this work and nobody is saying, sister, you all right? So then you form an image of, oh, she got it, she's strong. I'm like, I'm tired.
So can I ask you, can we push it here a little bit? And I'm cool.
Sure.
If you want to be just transparent as possible, how did the church respond to you? Like how were you treated? And let's just be real. I mean, how were you treated?
I gave you the examples of the couple outings.
Right.
So then you go from, well, who do I hang out with now? So if I wasn't determined that I have a competitive spirit, like I grew up with two brothers, so I'm more of a tomboy in nature. So I hate to lose, and I'm like, I'm not gonna sit at home. So if I had to be that fifth wheel, I had to be the fifth or the third wheel. But it forced me to make sure that the couple was comfortable. I don't want what you got. I'm trying to recover from the mess I just came out of. Just let me be around people, stuff like that.
Right.
So you go through that, and then you go through those who still don't know what to say, and all you get is happy Sabbath. Nobody said, you know what, that sister probably need her grass cut. The boy ain't but 3. So
come on.
But nobody want to send their husband over there to go cut the grass because I'm single. I'm like, Jesus. So here I go. Before I got married, I was single, had my own home, 2 cars. I was cutting my own grass. So it wasn't that I couldn't do it, but I'm just tired. How much more can I do with homework for them and everything else? Can somebody
and transitioning between sharing the load and having the whole load.
Yes.
Yeah.
You go from just being the mother to the mother and the father and the school teacher and everything else that you need to be. And then what was important for me was for my children not to be, I won't say labeled, but also for them not to suffer because of an absent father.
Wow.
I mean, I'm out there playing football with my son. You know, I'm like, okay, what's the drill? So, and when
that's why that boy doing good now, because you was out there doing them drills.
Right,
yeah, that's good. There you go.
Yo, you was, hey, you got it then.
Yeah, whatever it take. I'm like, and again, when you look at life, you don't understand it till you start looking back. How God gave me two brothers. So although I was the oldest, I didn't have anybody to play with but them. So I'm playing football and go-kart and motorcycle ride and everything else, you know, just like one of the boys. But it made me tough. Even working at UPS when I started off part-time loading and unloading the trucks. You don't see a lot of girls in there.
No, you don't. I did it. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
That was the hardest 2 months of my life.
And you did it for 2 months?
2 months, that's it. As soon as I raised enough money to get me a car and get me another job, I was gone. That was a hard 2 months, boy.
It is. And it was hard driving because you don't see a lot of females, and it's a male-dominated company, but it's open to everybody. But it takes a certain type of individual to. And I refused to go drive that truck and come back in and let them see that I had been whooped. I'd stop at McDonald's and fix my hair. I would come back in trying to look like that job that kicked my tail that day, but it did.
Right. Yo, and it's so interesting because what you're saying just sounds like you're a survivor. I mean, everything that you have just said, you are a survivor, and you've just been built for. I mean, it's like anything the enemy's thrown at you. I mean, I know that these last years, when you look back, they've been long 15 years.
It has been long.
But what have you seen today with your children, with your career? Where do you see that stuff paying off in your life?
One, to look at them, and again, I'm not the kind of parent who, one, I expect my children to make mistakes. So I don't pretend like I'm holier than thou and they're all perfect. They do the same mess that other children their ages do with it. My objective is to make sure that even in their mistakes, they learn the life lessons. When their father left, and here I am sitting at the table with these three little people, the three of us. And I was trying to explain to them, how do you explain your dad's like gone?
Right.
And so I'm telling them, sometimes in life things happen not the way that you plan, not what you want, and sometimes your feelings get hurt. Sometimes you get crushed. I said, one, you're entitled to your feelings.
Right.
So it's okay to cry. It's okay to be mad, whatever that is. And matter of fact, I want you to. However, you can't stay there.
Right.
And the only way, to be keeping it real with you, the only way I got through that season of life is I was like, okay, sister, you're going to have to suck it up, put your big girl pants on and everything else. I gave myself 15 minutes a day to release. And that was to cry, honestly. And I would do it mostly like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning after everybody was down. But sometimes in the day, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have to use 5 of my minutes right now and go to a place and get that 5. And I told my children, I said, the reason why, if your time is not 15 minutes, give yourself 30, but you got to cut it off, because if not, you could stay in that place. And then that's how the enemy gets into traumatize our children and adults, is that when life events happen, we're not open and talk about it. You have to allow for a healing process. And it's just like a pressure cooker. If your parents ever used a pressure cooker, you have to let off some steam or it's going to blow. And the same thing with me, I realized if I didn't give myself those 15 minutes, whether it was in the wee hours of the night, to let myself or let the tears flow,
right,
I could not, I had to regroup, but I could not pretend to run on, and I was depleted of everything. And you know, I'll keep it real. When the divorce first happened, and he went overseas, and the people would be coming back, rubbing my back. Oh, sister, I know you're crying. He gonna be all right. And I'm like, truth be told, I want the Lord to take him out while he's over there. You know?
Hey, listen, when you said keep it real,
I was like, no, that's not, that you might think I'm crying because he go, but I'm like, because they didn't know all the behind story, they didn't know all the ugliness.
Right.
So, but I'm like, I ain't even gonna pretend.
That's funny, but that's good
praying.
though. That, having that transparency. So we look at who you are and what you've had to survive. And now let's fast forward to 2020 starts, and you know, with this COVID-19, just talk to us about your journey, how you felt about it. Because a lot of people say to themselves, other people get it, I won't get it. Other people say to themselves, you know, I know for a while there were folks that said, well, it's not for black folk. You know what I'm saying?
Right, I saw that.
A lot of misconceptions out there. So kind of walk us through the beginning portions of that, how that started for you.
It's funny you mentioned that. I can remember being in the grocery store, and everybody was buzzing about it in the grocery store. And the gentleman behind me, he talking about, I don't know what they're worrying about because we can't get it anyway. And I was like, I don't know about that. So I started seeing little things on Facebook. I was at work, and it did come to my mind because I'm interacting with a lot of people during the course of a day to be more cautious. So I did the first little things, got the wipes, got the gloves, and all of those precautions, the hand sanitizers. And I was just going about my business, wiping everything down, thinking all is well in my world. And one Friday after work, I started feeling a little tired that afternoon. And then I got home and I said, let me take a nap and then regroup. And from the time I took that nap, I did not regroup. And it was the first Sabbath that they had canceled all of the church services due to it. So I was like, praise God, because we were supposed, and again, when I tell you, look at God and his mercies, at that particular service, Barry Black was supposed to be speaking, and I had a lot to do. I was supposed to take pictures and do all these things. Look how the Lord kept me from being around my church family, because at the time I didn't know I had it. I'm just thinking, I'm just feeling a little tired. And then I normally have allergies, sinus infections during this time. So I just stayed in bed all weekend. Monday, still pushing. I got up for my 8 o'clock video conference call. And then afterwards, my manager said, you might want to go get checked out. I was like, yeah, so I can go ahead and let them give me something and I can keep on going. Because being a single parent, I don't get to be sick. Not when they were little.
So that's your mentality the whole time, right?
Yeah, mentality is fix me, give me something quick, because I still got to keep running this race. And so I'll go to the doctor's office and go. First of all, they had it set up where you don't just get out the car and come in. Someone comes out, brings you a mask, you walk into the room, and then I never had a fever. So that's why I think, or didn't think, that I had the virus, because all on the news is saying a fever is the qualifier. If you got a fever, don't go into work and all this other stuff. She told me, she said, believe it or not, half the people we've tested that test positive never had a fever. I'm like, well, why do they keep advertising that? Because people are using that as a guideline to be out among other people. Right. So she said, I don't know why they're still doing that. So she said, well, I have to test you for the flu. So she did the flu swab, and I'm like, and that's already uncomfortable. But that COVID-19 test, the original test,
one with the nose, oh yeah,
they literally have to insert it so far back into your cavity. It felt like they were sticking me in my brain. That's how far back they have to go. So I was not looking forward to that at all. So I got through that. And she said, well, just as precaution, you got to go home and quarantine yourself until you get the test results. And I'm saying to myself, well, I still need to go to Walmart.
Right. Okay.
I had a planned day that this was not part of the plan. But I followed instructions, came home, and I told the kids that I had to be quarantined. So I didn't want free reign of my house, and then that limits them to just one room. So for 17 days, I was just in my room using the restroom.
And that's why we had to have a meeting at my house.
Yes.
Because that 17 days, I kept, man.
Oh, yeah.
Now, of your 17 days,
Mm-hmm.
you had a first initial period where you were quarantined, but you were not sure that you had it because the test results hadn't come back. How long was that period, and what was the difference between that and the rest of the period?
It's a whole nother story when you're feeling bad and just think you're just feeling bad than when you know you're bad.
Yeah, that's
That
true.
first 10 days that I was quarantined, I did not know I had it. I just thought I was feeling bad, and I think it's the flu or something, and it's going to pass. But when Monday came and the doctor's office called me and said, has the health department contacted you yet? And I said, no, why? She said, well, your test came back positive. I said, what? Wait a minute. Are you serious? And I'm like, the devil is a lie. And I was just like, I could not digest that.
Wow.
So after I spoke with the doctor's office, and then I spoke with the health department, then I called my pastor, and then I just sat there for a minute. Just trying to I'm like, okay, let me process what has just happened, and how do I move forward from here? How do I tell my children but not alarm them so that they're panicking? It's just a piece you have to manage, and you have to know your children and know your family and know what you can and cannot do and how to
Yeah, for sure.
so I needed their help, but I didn't want them to be overly concerned. But at the same time, I was very concerned.
Absolutely.
Um, and I tell you, a lot of prayer, lots of prayer. And I'm like, Lord, I'm going to trust you in this. And uh, you're just going to have to work on me, save my children. I got my oil out. I plead the blood of Jesus. I
That's
anointed these
right.
doorposts. I was like, don't let anything happen to my children. And the praise report is that even through the journey, my children never got sick. They never had any symptoms.
Praise the Lord.
And so I know that God hears and answers prayers, and He will cover your children. And I asked the Lord. I said, now wait, because I'm talking to the Lord the same way I talk to y'all. I was like, this don't make no sense. I said, I
Right.
know that all things work together for good, but I'm trying to see, where is the good in this?
Right.
Where is the good in it? And the Lord reminded me, and some people may not understand, but my relationship with the Lord, He said, you one of those Negroes, I got to show you, I can show you better than I can tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Right.
then you walk another journey when you've been through it yourself.
Right.
And so I said, Lord, so many people are dying. Is this my fate? And the Lord said to me, I can't tell you what He told her, nobody else, but what He said to me is, what did you do? What was your process? So my process was, okay, once I processed it, I said, Lord, either you have allowed this to come to me to heal me so that you get all the praise, honor, and glory, or you have allowed this to come to me and I got a short window to get myself together so that when I open my eyes again, I get to see you.
Wow.
And then when He said that, I said, that is it. So if you guys look at it, even in the death of these 20,000 people right now and counting in the US alone, I would like to think the Lord could have allowed us to just be smite down instantly, just dead. Something happened dead. But even in death, they had a window to get their relationship right with Him.
Wow.
So I would like to think at least 98% of the 20,000, when they wake up again, God will be what they see. And what other earth event that would have saved so many in death? I just like, I started shouting right then and there. I was like,
Wow.
Lord, I thank you that you allowed me to live to tell about it. But at least I can see that, because I can imagine if it were me, if I were in the hospital, then now I'm on a ventilator. I may not be able to speak, but me and the Lord is having a conversation in my mind,
Right.
and my heart,
Absolutely.
and my spirit. And if nothing else, you are saying, Lord, save me. And I would have to think that those people who would not have otherwise in this time frame called out or cried out to God, I just have to think that's what this is about. So many people to be saved, and I do believe that we are in the toenails of time. And this is a wake-up call for the world, not just for me and my household, but for the world, whether it happens to you or not. What excuse now do we have with all this time on our hands, not to be in the Word, not to pray, not to get not to take a look at yourself? I look at myself every day in the mirror, and because I know me and the Lord knows me, I know everything ain't good that I'm looking at. But God is merciful. I just get excited because even though He knows who we are at our core, He still can use you and find favor with you. And nothing that you have done in life is too hard or too despicable that He still can't do something with your life that He get praise and honor and glory for it. You can't tell me I don't
listen,
say good God.
I'm gonna have to rehash 2 points. I'm just going to rehash 2 points just in case somebody missed it. First of all, you said God asked you to look at your process, and you saw either I'm going to get delivered from this and I'll have a testimony, or I won't be delivered from this and I have time to get my house in order.
Right.
That was it.
And I mean, but G, won't you say that's a mature conversation spiritually that you got to have with yourself? I think that is just like that's a mature place of spirituality where you got to say, God.
You had to, in making that statement, you had to have accepted that He might say no.
Right.
Exactly.
So I think let's talk about that. For those 17 days, talk to us about your faith. Like, I mean, because it's right now it's through it's through the roof. But tell us the journey and the struggle of, because I think what you're saying is that you grew, but it was
Oh yeah.
Tell me about your
right
faith
now.
journey. Yeah, y'all tight right now. Yeah, y'all tight.
I can get a prayer through.
Yeah, that's right. I think a lot of people, we talk about getting through the storm or making it out, but we don't talk about the faith journey while you in it. Like what was it like for you for 7 days for your faith?
Something happened to me during I think we had this talk before we started this process, but I have been a chaplain at a hospital for 3 years now. And again, that was some of the Lord backdooring me into that. I'm like, I don't fit the profile. And I'm the first one to tell you, I do not fit the profile, but He still opened doors to allow me to walk through that I never would have placed myself, never would have aspired to be. And on one of my calls, we had a code blue. So in a code blue, you respond to the patient's room. If there are family members there, you try to console them. If the family's not there, you start praying and interceding on behalf of the individual. And so I'm responding to a code blue. The whole time my mind is thinking, the Lord has got me somebody in a hospital who's able to walk in a room with doctors and everybody else, and with authority. I'm questioning it, but they're expecting me to have some authority. And I'm like, the only authority I got is God up in here. So I'm watching them try to resuscitate a patient. And when they're doing so, the patient is, of course, disrobed. It's like organized chaos. You got them doing the chest compressions, and then when one person gets tired, they'll say switch, roll off, and the chest compressions never miss a beat. So I'm sitting here and I'm praying. I'm like, Lord, I don't know this person. I'm standing in the gap. If it's your will, heal them, save them. And then you'd have to know how I separate things. I'm in that moment, I'm praying, but in the same time, I'm like, what is the lesson I'm supposed to learn from this? Because I realized that every event in life is a lesson opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, what am I supposed to get out of this? And the Holy Spirit spoke, and I'm like, why do I get to see this right now? And he said, sometimes in order to save your life, your nakedness has to be exposed. I said, what?
Oof.
That moment, I'm like, that will preach somewhere for somebody.
That'll preach.
But that was deep. In order for the God or anybody to save us, sometimes you have to just not care what you look like, what you've been through, nothing. This person is unconscious, naked on the table, being resuscitated. And the Lord said, in order to save your life, sometimes your nakedness has to be exposed.
Good.
And sometimes we aren't willing to expose our nakedness in order to save our lives. Let's more let that testimony save somebody else's life.
That's
I'm like, that's will.
right.
So that experience had me during my 17 days saying, okay, I don't know if you're going to heal me yet, but what's the lesson in this?
Right.
And so I started thinking about where I am in my spiritual journey. Is this where you want me to be? Where am I supposed to be? And then we do what everybody does when you get in trouble. Lord, if you just save me for this,
get me out of this one.
I ain't gonna do it no more.
Yeah.
And you go through that, but I'm like, Lord, I'm for real this time. And we say that every time, but I just it was when you say that was a mature thing that I got into, because at that point I'm like, Lord, I am who you created me to be. Everything I am good, everything I am bad. It's just who I am.
This is me.
But
right.
here I am. Save me, and I will continue to tell of your goodness and mercy as long as there is breath in my body.
Right.
And then help me to draw closer to you, and save my children.
Right.
I wish I could say that they were real spiritual, but they the typical 18 and 22-year-old. They've laid the foundation by going to church school, but now they're in the world, and I'm like, I tell them, look, y'all, I can pray for you, but you got to pray for yourself.
That's right. Encourage yourself.
Okay. Let me jump in because this is so good. I really want to also though hear, just because I'm interested, and I think a lot of other people are interested, physically. Like, you've been talking about the spiritual and the mental, but physically, what was the process? Like, how did you feel, day 1 to day 17?
And what did you do? What were some things that you did? Health-wise.
When I was listening to the news, and basically I had determined that there's no treatment, so all you can do is treat the symptoms. So the first 3 days before I even went to the doctor, I started taking all the cold medicine that I could take. And then when I went to the doctor, I still couldn't take anything. I was taking Mucinex, Sudafed, Alka-Seltzer Cold, nighttime, NyQuil, anything to relieve the symptoms, because you are so congested. The mucus builds up so much. It's a lot. It's not your regular, even your allergy sinus congestion. It's on a whole nother level of congestion. You feel very weak. Like I said, the fatigue is unlike anything I've ever experienced. Just to roll over was a journey. To change positions was a journey. I had the body aches, but never the fever. And then they didn't want you to take ibuprofen. I heard you can only take Tylenol. Well, prior to this, in my other life, when I thought I was an athlete, I literally ran track, played volleyball, football, softball, whatever the case may be. I've had 6 knee surgeries, 2 ACLs, one on each knee, a meniscus, and then 3 orthoscopic surgeries. So I take a prescription for meloxicam. It's like an anti-inflammatory, helps your joints and stuff. Well, I didn't realize that that was ibuprofen kind of steroid like base. And so I was taking that the whole time, which was hindering some of the healing process.
Wow.
And then when I found out I shouldn't be taking that, I stopped. So you're talking about body aches on top of the other body aches.
How many days in did you stop taking it?
The last 6 days I came off of it. So it was a double dose of joint pains for me. And I had a follow-up virtual visit with the doctor, and it's just a whole nother story. So because I would tell everybody, make sure you stay hydrated, you get up too quick, and your mind plays tricks on you because you've been isolated for so long. When you do have a glimmer of, I feel like I can stand up, you think you got more strength than you have. So I tried to walk out of my room. The kids are gone to the grocery store. I'm like, ooh, I'm at least just get in the hallway. And I got so lightheaded, before I knew it, I had tripped and fell. And I fell so hard that there were scuff marks of white paint on my glasses. And I fell down to the ground. I like to knock myself unconscious. When I tell you, it was when God looks out for babies and fools and baby fools. I was in my mind. I was a foolish move because I thought.
What did your daughter say to you when you told her about that?
Right.
When I tell you God's grace, they came home right when I fell down. So when they opened the door, I'm like, "Come help me up! Come help me up!" And the whole time I've been sick. Well, first of all, they came and helped me. But because they're children and we're all comedians in this house, I would yell down to them and I was like, "Can you bring me some ice? Can you bring me this?" And so I said, "Naya, can you hear me?" I said, "Naya." She said, "What, Rona?" My nickname for 2 weeks was Rona. And so when they came upstairs, they said, "Rona, what have you done?" And they helped me get back up. But so after that, I had a virtual visit because I couldn't just go to the orthopedic to check out anything because I had already been diagnosed. You can't just go back to the doctor's office because you've been diagnosed. Nobody wants to see you. You have to just, he said to me, he said, "You're just going to have to suffer." He said, "But I'd rather you suffer in pain than to take this and not come out of it."
Wow.
There's always a chance of setbacks or relapse. So even now, sometimes I'm like, I got to go sit down for a minute. I still don't have full strength and get
so you're taking the
sort
time.
of breath. Yeah, I'm taking my time.
So
did you get back on your medicine for your hip?
That was a management decision that I made. I can't take it.
Management decision.
I know that's right. So for you, because we got a lot of people who believe in different health nuggets. What are some tips if they have it or if they feel like they have it? Give us a few tips that kept you.
One thing that kept me going is I got a phone call for somebody, and they had said someone else had it in another church, and to take 16 ounces of water and boil it with about 8 cloves of garlic. I'm not a garlic person like that. I'm like,
well, you're not gonna be talking to people anyway, huh?
No, I'm by myself. So
right.
And I said, "Lord, you're gonna have to help me with this." So I boiled the garlic and water for about 5 minutes, or my daughter did, and she'd bring it to me, and I drank it, and then eat as many cloves as you can. The good part about it is because they've been boiled, they don't taste as pungent, and it's like you're chewing mashed potatoes. But I did that. The next day, I felt like new money. I had and from that point, I would take it in the mornings and in the night, at night, and it was the difference between night and day. And I really feel confident that it played a strong part in my recovery.
Okay, in my after watching your video and thinking about them 17 days and having my family meeting, I kept thinking about them bringing you food and like you see on the movies, opening some kind of slide door and sliding the food in.
Or putting it on the floor and walking away.
Right. What was the logistics of being cared for by your children and staying to your room? What was the logistics of that?
That they bring it to the door and leave, and then when they've left, I open it and get it.
So it's on like a table or something outside the door?
Yeah. Inside your house, man. That's what it is.
Because if I had, went downstairs, then everything that I touched at that point, they have to go back and teenagers are teenagers, and you have this stay at home. They're not trying to stay at home. So my house is also the neighborhood house. So I have all the kids. So I didn't want to mess up their flow, because then it made it worse on me with them complaining in the background. But the Lord blessed.
The Lord
took care of it all.
So I gotta ask you, we've been talking about some, spiritual stuff, physical, but just for me and G, like, I mean, did you watch a bunch of movies on Netflix? Are you a reader? I mean, what were you doing? Did you catch up on a movie series? Talk to us about just real talk. What did you do to keep yourself entertained?
The first 9 days, you don't feel like doing nothing.
Okay, wow.
So you sleep for long periods of time. When I started to come around, I wanted to stay abreast of what's on the news.
Okay.
Because I am in school. I looked at that schoolwork. I was like, your mind is not sharp. You're functioning, but you're not clear.
Right.
So it took a minute to get the cobwebs out. So what I did is I had bought the Clear Word Bible on CD. And I lost the cord to my CD player. So I found it on Audible. It's not exactly user friendly because you can't just go to a specific book and chapter. It just runs chapter by chapter. So like I'm in 2nd Chronicles right now, and you'd have to know that that's chapter 325. But
right.
When I was listening to it, I just saw new things about the Bible that I had never seen before. And you being pastors, you may have read about it, but how I read and how the Lord lets me see scriptures is in everyday language. By profession and by education, communications, public relations, I can speak in front of 1 million people and be professional and use the correct language form.
Sure.
But my background, single parenting, I've been in the projects and everything else. You drop me off on the corner and I'm good with that crew too.
Right.
So I read the Bible like that. And so one story leaped out from me that I even had to call my pastor. I said, I just heard a story I had never heard before. Nobody's preaching on it. He said, well, what's that? I said, I think it's 2 Kings or even 2 Chronicles 13. It's the story where the Israelites, they were marching during a funeral.
Right.
And, the Israelites been tripping all this time, just being disobedient,
right?
All kind of idols and stuff. And so the Lord would allow different people to attack them. So this time the Moabites was getting ready to attack the children.
I know what you're about to say, yeah.
So they're in the funeral, and in my mind's eye, I can see them with the procession on carrying the body. Right. And so when they saw the Moabites, they took off running. So they threw the body into Elijah's tomb. And when the body hit Elijah's bones, and be mindful, when Elijah died, he was sick.
Yeah.
So this tells me that somebody's sick bones.
Yeah.
Can bring somebody else to life.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's the word. Yeah.
And so, and in my mind's eye, I'm imagining them running, and then the dead body that they threw into the tomb, then came to life, and up past them, they
looked back. Yep, that's funny.
That
text is kind of couched in it's only 2 or 3 verses, but it's a back text. That man hit that bones, and after that, it goes into something else. You're like, wait a minute, when you see
Yeah,
it,
right.
That's it. You just gonna drop that on me?
Exactly. So
That's
in
right.
my mind's eye, I
That's
can
right.
see people running and then the dead person pass you.
Yeah, that's right, and
That
that's
is
good.
funny.
So the question was, what you been doing?
I have been reading.
It sounds like
Been
she
reading.
reading the word, Doc. She ready to preach that text herself, man. She can preach that, man.
That's
All right.
that's the second time. That's the second time she told us something that'll preach
Yeah, that's it. That's it. We
in this
straight up, man.
conversation.
Look, my again, you have to know my sense of humor. And my brothers, they're comedians. One of my brothers is he's a pastor at a Baptist church in New Jersey. And so whenever the Lord shows me stuff, I'll call him and I'll say, I got a sermon for you. And so most of the time he'll ask me and then start laughing. And so this time, because I hear stuff in the street,
Right.
I had studied where when Moses went to the mountain and the Lord was speaking to him and getting the taps and left Aaron in charge.
Mm-hmm.
I say Aaron with his old weak self, he let the people just convince him to build this calf out of gold.
Yeah.
Build it and
right,
I said,
right.
you know, so he got this bull, and I said, I told my brother, I said, the sermon title is That's a Bull. He told me, what? I said, so whenever you putting something before God, that's a bull.
That's some bull.
Hey,
that's some bull.
Hey man, we may not release this episode till we write these sermons up again. We ain't gonna
hey, that's some bull right there. Hey.
So
because and really what even the meaning of that some bull, this dude didn't believe in the calf.
Right. And still
he did it because he was a chump.
Right.
It ain't like he believed like the people believe.
Right.
No.
But that's really some bull.
You can't be leading and be weak.
No.
So it sounds like the Lord's deposited fresh word and his spirit on you. And I think that's what we're just so honored to have talked to you about this. But before we wrap things up, is there something, or is there some type of advice or word of encouragement you will give to someone who may be listening, who's got a family member going through this, who may be going through it themselves? What is your word of wisdom to them?
My word of wisdom would be, even for those who are in the hospital, because again, I have to ask God, help this make some sense to me. You're allowing people to die, and they have to die alone. Mm-hmm. The family members can't be by the bedside. Mm-hmm. You can't, so it's a different type of grief to be healed from. And I would just remind the family members that God is in control, and God never leaves you alone. The same way he never leaves you alone, he is in that room with your loved one, and they're not alone. They may close their eyes and you're not there, but they were not alone. And sometimes, being a chaplain, when I have to go sit when someone's about to, transpire, sometimes the family's in there for their own comfort, like I need closure. But sometimes the noise of the family keeps the person from hearing God and being able to conversate with God, because you are always in there. So it forces some alone time for the family member to be just me and God. You got the staff that's caring for them. And I just want them to find peace in knowing that because the staff is there, they're not physically alone, but God is there with them.
I love that.
For those that he allows to come out of this, that he spared you for a reason. Don't waste it. Don't waste your other chance. I'm not gonna say don't waste your second chance. I'm about 560. We can't count
every
the
single
chances.
Day. Right.
But don't blow this chance.
The other chance.
And so that's I can't blow it at this point.
He's
done too much for me.
One thing when we introduced you, we didn't talk about your singing, and not that I'm asking you to sing a song here for us right
Mhm.
now, or you can if the Lord moved you. What are the song titles that kind of helped you through,
Oh, that's a good
or
one.
that you even think of as a songstress? What songs come to mind that kind of buoy your faith during the time, and kind of even that you still look back at as something that got you through?
There were two songs that got me through. One is like a old spiritual that you find in your Baptist churches,
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
hear the
yeah.
woodcrick, and it's I don't know how, but God's gonna do it.
Oh, yes.
And
I don't know
then
how, but God's gonna do it.
yeah, and the song that I kept singing to myself was "This Too Shall Pass."
This too shall
And
pass.
you have to remember everything in life, and I tell people we only tend to say this when things are bad. Don't worry, trouble don't last always. This too shall
Right,
pass.
right.
But the happy times, this too shall pass. You're not you're not gonna stay happy all the time.
That's a word.
So, but we only think about that when it's a sad.
That's a
Oh, this
word.
too shall pass. But the happy times go past
Good
Go
stuff
too.
pass
is
too.
sanitized.
So everything in life
That's a
is
word, man.
cyclical.
Mm,
You have to just ride it out. Get
mm.
off where you're supposed to get off on, get back on when you're supposed to get on.
Yeah,
But this too shall pass. Whatever
Mm.
season you're in is
Whatever
going to
season you're in.
pass.
it's gonna work out.
So
And it'll be back.
it will be back. So the thing is, what is the lesson for the season? What is your lesson in your happy season?
Yeah,
What were you
lesson for
supposed
the
to get
season.
out of that? And what is the lesson in the sad season and or the uncertain season? God allows it to come to you for you to, something should click. If nothing is clicking, but oh, woe is me,
Then you in trouble.
you're missing
You
you're
miss it.
missing it.
You missed it. You missed it.
So,
And God forbid you have to have woe is me time longer so that you can get it.
right. Get yourself together.
Israelite.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, listen. I'm so glad we were able to do this. I know we had bad weather yesterday, and I'm so glad that we got on this phone call. And I'm sorry, this Zoom meeting, this podcast, we're able to talk to you. Thank you for being available. Thank you for being patient with us as we had to get this thing together. And I just look forward to exposing a lot of other people to your words of wisdom. I knew you had more of a story than that one I listened to, but
Yeah.
I wanted to get the whole thing.
I gotta ask you.
Hey, listen, I got a book title for you. 17 days.
And counting.
So let me ask you, how do we, someone who's listening, watching, how do we find you on social media? How can someone who is struggling, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can either inbox me on Facebook. And once you inbox me, I can give out the number. I don't mind somebody calling me any time of the day or night.
Facebook's the best way to kind of get in touch with you?
Yes.
Great. Well, we're just thankful. We're grateful. This has been a really, really special portion of the Academy. And I'm just thankful because this has definitely blessed us. So we're glad that you all are listening. Those who are watching, make sure to follow us on social media. Catch us out for our next episode. But we're so thankful and grateful. Once again, Ms. Jackson, thank you.
Thank you.
So much. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. God bless.
See you next time.